Okay, welcome back to the next part of the video. In the previous video, we were completing the challenge number 2 for you have to get out to the moon and then rendezvous with the Luna space station and try to do that using as little fuel as possible. As far as the challenge goes, it's not a challenge of fuel because we have tons of fuel. So the challenge part of it is just to use the least amount of fuel that you can. Made a bit of a mistake coming out to the moon in that I forgot to do my plane alignment as part of the mid-course correction. Would have been much cheaper had I done that, but I just overlooked it, so we'll just go ahead and continue on anyway. Now let's turn maneuver mode on in TransX and set up the rendezvous for getting over to the Luna wheel. So that's our orbit. Let's see, we're gonna have to raise it. No, we'd have to lower it on the other side a bit. Let's put in a little bit of data there, and then we can come over to the date part and start working with the date. And back to prograde. Okay, over to date, see if we can make this amount of prograde work. We have to go forward. Okay, so 90 something kilometers there. So over here we're down to 41, 40, 39. So somewhere over there we'll make it. We'll make that our rendezvous point. Okay, closest approach is all the way down. And so with just a little bit more prograde one way or the other, we'll have it, looks like about there. And then possibly just a tiny bit of plane change because we're still off by just a little bit. Yeah, that's it. And we're there. Okay, view over to target and let's warp time forward to get closer to the time to do the burn. Let's go out to 1,000. Okay, we're getting pretty close. Now view over to maneuver and just make sure that everything is on track. Do an update. And we're only 20 meters out and encounter velocity is pretty low. So that should be the maneuver. And is it negative prograde? Yeah, negative prograde. So it's going to be a retrograde burn mostly. Go ahead and get a little closer.
Rotation.
Get rotated around. Okay, I'm actually just going to use the retrograde autopilot because we're getting pretty close to the time. But before we do that, we'll quickly view over here and do one last final update. We're 19 meters out according to the closest approach. That's fine. So view target. And I guess we can use burn time calculator again. DV is 30.9. Turn off the retrograde autopilot. Kill rotation and just a little bit more on that green X. And burning. Okay, view to maneuver off. And the closest approach, we'll watch that here as we do just a little bit of translating. And there we have it. Now let's go to Dock, HUD, bring up the comm nav. Doesn't look like this challenge has everything set up for us, so we'll bring up Vessel, Luna Wheel. And the long range is 132.70, so we'll set that. Probably should have went backwards. And I think there's only one docking port. No, there's two. So we'll go with we'll set them 136 even. Let's go backwards, closer. There we go. And let's open the retro doors now. And the docking nose cone. And it's warp time forward till we're closer to the space station. Okay, there it is, catching up to us. And with an encounter velocity of 62 meters, we'll be able to get right up to it before we need to worry about braking. But let's not guess. We can bring up burn time calculator and set the engines to retro. And 62.3 is our encounter velocity. We need not quite a kilometer. In fact, one other thing we can do is bring up the docking, switch over to nav 2, and bring up the HUD. We're going to be on the other side, unless we want to change the docking corridor. In fact, we'll change it so that it's number 2, because we're on this side of it. No point in going around to the other side. So we'll set that here in a minute.
Translate rotation.
Begin braking here pretty quickly, and let's brake.
Translation.
Just getting everything zeroed out here. Okay, let's switch nav to number 2. And now we have the docking corridor right in front of us on this side.
Rotation. Translation.
So let's aim for here. And we're probably done with this. Power that side off. Nav 2, copy that information to HUD.
Rotation.
And it's just warp time forward to get over there faster. We're approaching the wheel, spinning around, makes you dizzy and sick. 300 meters out. Let's go ahead and go back to real time.
Translation.
Warp time forward a bit. Okay, back to real time.
Rotation.
Let's see if we can match up the rotation.
Translation. Rotation.
Get the red X centered up.
Translation.
And again, translating in the correct direction.
Rotation.
Now, in theory, I guess we should technically rotate at the same frequency as the Luna wheel. So that's what we're doing here.
Translation.
Of course, that's sure going to make this maneuver a lot more interesting.
Rotation.
Actually, I'm not going to do that because that will
Translation.
just make this translation all the more difficult. Okay, so we're translating up a bit. And we're actually backing off the space station a little bit at the moment until we can get this, until we can get our plus sign here more to where it needs to be. Maybe once that's centered, maybe then we can start rotating at the same frequency as the space station. Switching to control thrust. Start moving forward a little bit now. Okay, so the X is now centered and the plus sign is now centered. Now we can actually dock like this. We don't have to rotate at the same frequency, but it's kind of cooler if we do. Just trying to get that red arrow to the top. So you can see what I'm talking about. We're rotating and the vessels and the space station's rotating. Okay, I think we're about the same frequency now. So now we just have to move forward.
Translation. Rotation.
Pretty confusing.
Translation.
I've docked with this before, but I've never actually tried to dock while rotating. Okay, we're just going to let it spin around and then we'll...
Rotation. Translation.
Let's get the plus sign squared away and then we'll worry about the rotation. Okay, we're centered there.
Rotation.
Now once we get around to the top here, we'll see about rotating. Okay, the yellow or the white arrows at the top.
Translation.
Okay, now I think what we'll do is we'll only try to translate when the plus sign is on top. This is a lot harder than it looks.
Rotation.
I'm not going to do that. It would take forever. So
Translation.
I'm not going to worry about the rotation part. We're just going to get the see, we have this pretty well centered. Now the problem is with the rotation, as soon as you try to match the rotation of the wheel, what ends up happening is that plus sign, you have to constantly adjust for it based on the rotation, and
Rotation.
it seems nearly impossible.
Translation. Rotation. Translation. Rotation. Translation.
Okay, so translate up a bit. I have one idea though. Maybe if we get like right up to the cone or right up to the...
Rotation. Translation.
Okay, so let's translate forward because we're still 32 meters out. What we might be able to do is like time it so that as soon as this comes to the top, we can close the last meter. Okay, so we're 9 meters out, 5 meters out, so let's slow down. I was trying to time it so that I would close it right when it got to the top. So total fuel expenditure 2,496.28, and there was no other high score in the database. Have to try that again another day, and remember to set up the alignment with the Luna wheel as part of the mid-course correction on the way to the moon, because that definitely cost me some fuel. Okay, so if you liked this video, leave a comment down below. Again, if you've completed this challenge, post your score down below so that other people can see how well you did. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Check out the link in the description to my Facebook page if you're interested in looking at that as well. And then we'll come back and do this challenge another time. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to challenge number 3. So I will see you in the next video.